Well, welcome to the AWI Podcast. This is a time of real and authentic conversations about worship, theology, and church leadership. And today we have awesome Pastor Mathew from Lake Avenue Church. He's the senior pastor of Lake Avenue. And you were originally an electrical engineer with decades of professional experience in academic, corporate, and ecclesiastical platforms, in addition to being a successful teacher, speaker, and online course creator. You were an author of the book The Unknown God and the Beatitudes, Blessings of the Kingdom. And today we will get to talk about what do senior pastors have to say about worship. So I'd love to hear what your definition of worship is.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Taylor, for inviting me. It's always a privilege to collaborate with APU, and especially we have a lot of students from APU and professors. Some of you are professors from APU as congregation members. Actually, your president is coming to speak to us, one of the services, by the way. Well, worship to me, the definition that I've given to myself is that anything that connects you to the transcendent reality of God, uh,
Mm,
anything that create an encounter with God, anything that gives you that Isaiah 6 moment where the prophet sees God and just completely speechless, doesn't know what to say, what to do. That moment is the true worship. Anything that
mm,
leads you to that. Yeah, that's my
mm.
personal definition of worship.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. And how did you come to that definition? Like what has your experience with worship been?
Yeah, part of it was a progression of events that led me to that understanding because first of all, I was born and raised in an Eastern Orthodox tradition where liturgy and
Mm,
incenses, uh, it created a psychological atmosphere as you walk into the presence of God. You
mm,
experience something. Then I became born again in my college days, probably your age. My transition happened. I became a true Christian when I was in my university days through an evangelical church background. But in the evangelical church background, as we all are part of that tradition, it is mostly what I would call a logocentric because it's all about the sermon, right? Like you hear the word of God and
mm,
pastor preaching the scripture is the main thing. And even last Sunday, I was kind of chiding some of our congregation members for coming late because they missed the worship part. But I'm here for the sermon because that's the most important thing.
mm,
But I realized that uh, you know, quite often our evangelical churches have become more like a you go to a service, worship service is more like a TED talk on morality lectures, how you behave, what you should do, which is all important, obviously. But people are not having an encounter. If there is no encounter, there is no transformation. If there is no
mm,
transformation, there is no sustenance or future for us to continue, right? So that's
right.
why I realized going back to the heart of the worship is to connect with God. If you don't connect with God, yeah, you knew about God, you heard a great sermon, but that encounter has to come. That can come through music, that can come through sermon, it can come through anything, or maybe just passing of the peace. We shake hand, greet each other, right? So that, yeah,
Mhm.
so yeah, I think that was my arrival at my own definition.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
love that. And yeah, I love that you highlighted that it's so much it's not just in music, it's not just in the sermon, but yet it can happen in both
Mhm.
aspect and how that encounter is what draws you closer to the Lord. I love that. And so even thinking of what worship looks like in our daily lives, because there's that difference of we have like the Sunday experience, but then we also have our daily lives. And so
Yeah.
how do you view the difference?
Um, Daily life worship. at least in my personal experience, is incorporated to more of a reflection and contemplation. I do. Um, uh, one of the greatest things that I've done in my life. I'm 55 years old, but when I was 18, probably your age or somewhere around in the neighborhood, a process I started was writing journal. I write
Mm,
every day my diary, right, like a journal. It's a very boring kind of summation of what I did. Nothing poetic, nothing dramatic or anything, but what I did during that day, who I met during that day, what was the gist
mm,
of the conversation. So if you come to my house, I have around 37 now books of my life recorded that way. So the reason I'm saying this is that it really helps me to worship every now I cannot sleep if I don't write my journal. It's like programmed, right? So every evening I write my journal, and that's when I think about, say, for example, tonight when I'm going to write my journal, I'm going to think about our conversation. I'm going to think about you, and I'm going to say a prayer for you, and
mm.
I'm going to have the same with all of the things that happen in my day that helps me anchor and also help me connect with God, the grace of God that really allow me to navigate this day effectively, and new friendship made and new conversation had. To me, that is because you asked me for my personal worship. That's what I do. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so then when thinking of like what on Sundays, I guess from the perspective of the congregation, like what is a Sunday worship and then how do you yeah, I guess start with the what's a
Yeah,
Sunday worship and then I'll ask another
yeah.
question.
Sunday worship at Lake Avenue Church is quite extraordinary. So I've never ever, I lived in 4 different countries and I ministered in different churches, but I've never been in a church like the church I ministered to right now, which is Lake Avenue
Mm,
Church. So we have a full blown orchestra. Orchestra is something you hardly see in any churches. This is like a full blown orchestra with violins and the saxophone and all of that. Then we have like 100 to 120 member choir. Then we have the traditional worship band. And if you been to our sanctuary, I don't know if you have ever visited. Yeah, I think APU does the, yeah, it's like, so we ours is one of the largest auditoriums in Pasadena. Right across from our street is where they record America Got Talent in Pasadena Civic Center, and our auditorium technically is bigger than Pasadena Civic Center. Anyway, all that to say that
whoa.
exactly. So we have this huge facility, and our pipe organ is supposed to be one of the biggest in the country or something like that. Anyway, all that to say that there is this performative element that is very obvious when you walk into our church. You have
Mm,
not all Sundays we have orchestra, choir, and worship band, but generally. So my challenge always has been at what point this becomes an idol. It's all a good thing. The idols are always good things, right? Like, never starts as idol. But with this amazing talented people here, how to steward their gifting that God has placed in them and to direct that in a way that the congregation have an encounter with with God, not with music, right? Like, we don't want to worship music. We want to use music as a channel of worship. So yeah, so that's a long question, but that's somewhere around in that vicinity. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So then when people in your congregation experience like that, yeah, what can
yeah.
be maybe grand and what can involves a lot, like I mean not in your daily life do you experience a choir singing, and so how do you then as the pastor help inform them of what worship can look like in their daily lives and for them to and to empower them to actually do that.
Yeah. Well, my challenge to the worship team, and I try to meet with them as often and as I could, and to really restate this reality that we are here to connect people to a realm outside this realm, to create that encounter. Uh,
Hmm.
that really helps them a lot, and that also takes the pressure off them, right? Like, so this is, oh, not the best note, and not the, I'm not musically inclined at all. I can't even sing a song to the tune. I think when I came to APU, I shared this funny story. When I married my wife, the only thing she asked me was, don't sing in public, because I can't. So that that is relieving for my worship. So it's not about our performance, but as long as we can channel this for people to have that encounter. Then again, I'm very, very blessed in our team. Again, our one of the worship directors, our choir director, is Dr. John Sutton, who is APU professor. One of our elders is Dr. Michelle Jensen, who is one of the APU professors, and we have Dwayne Funderburg. He also has connection with APU. But these are all, people I look up to. Even though I am their pastor, I am their leader. These people are incredible and amazing. I'm blessed with it's a collaborative process that way. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so what would you describe the worship culture of like the worship team to be?
Yeah, worship team at Lake Avenue. Okay, again, like there are three different worship team. One is the praise band. One is the choir. Choir is a community in itself, right? Like, that's like
Mm,
you're talking about 100 to 120 people. They have their own retreat. They have their own programs, and I don't want to mess with them because because that's a chunk of the congregation with connected. They're wonderful people, so not that I have any problem with that. But so that community building is the key. Same with orchestra. Orchestra again is a special talent, and these people are, man, some of the top-notch schools, and they perform in professional settings. And so our Dwayne Funderburg right now, who's our artist in residence, he has formed this community. And then I have a worship band director, Jeremy. He's also Dr. Jeremy Rose. Again, the community is already built. All I need is to just nurture their relationship. I always encourage them, see, think about the worship service in general. It's not just about the song; it's about the sermon too. I'm in that sense. I have the same job as the worship team to lead people to that experience. But I always encourage them. If you don't have that experience yourself first, people don't believe you. They will take it as a performance. So all you need to do is to first you enter into that transcendent reality. You enter into the presence of God. Then people will automatically magnetized by what you're doing there. All you need to is just to show
right.
up, right? So have that walk with the Lord in your daily life, and then the other things will happen automatically. So I
Mm,
stress that, and they get it, and yeah. Again, I'm just one of the very blessed pastors to work with, where I have heard nightmarish stories about the contemporary band and the choir are in fight, and those two worship leaders don't talk to each other because they are two different generation. Our church somehow is completely opposite. They are all
mm.
in, it is the Holy Spirit experience. So all I need to do is just to don't mess it up, just to be around them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. And to see too how the fact that you guys have those different aspects and how, yeah, just like you said too, you're a part of your role is to work with them. And what does it look like from your church's experience too of who gets to choose the songs? I mean, you have choir, you have praise band, and so it's how does the song choices even go about that? And is that with you? Is yeah.
I normally don't interfere with the song choices.
Hmm.
I always give them the freedom to do song choices. I don't think I've been working in the church for 5 years, although as a senior pastor only 3 years. I can't remember an instance where I said, "Hey, I need this song." I don't think I've ever said it. Maybe one time or something because it was very specific. Uh, no, I trust them, and I also realize my own deficiency as a pastor if I because I don't know. Like I said, I don't know music, so I shouldn't be the one telling you what song to sing. But I will give them the gist of, especially how I end the sermon, because the ending of the sermon is normally the crux of the sermon, right? So
Totally.
yeah, so I give them like a maybe a paragraph summary of what I'm going to preach about. Then they sense it and they go with it. That's normally what happens. Yeah, yeah.
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 And as far as how your service is set up, is the choir at the end or are they at the beginning? Like, what does a normal service flow look like?
Normally the choir comes in the beginning, and during the offering time, this is just before I preach. The After the offering song, they disappear from the stage. Then I go and preach, and the worship team, the praise band or the contemporary worship band comes in the end and lead us
Mhm.
in a. Very rarely the choir stays for the whole service. They are normally during the first part of the, which makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense too. Cause then it's like, I feel like the choir is kind of like the praise aspect. And then
exactly.
the, the worship, I mean, worship is a response. It's that
Yeah,
like, that
yeah,
deeper, element to it that's like makes sense of like you just delivered a message and so it's like okay we're taking that in and then we're going deeper through the musical aspect after that so I love
yeah,
that that's cool
yeah,
that it's set up
yeah.
that way. um Yes. In relating to the, I guess, do you have a worship leader for the praise band that you're like in
Mhm.
communication with? How,
Yeah.
like, what does that relationship look like?
So the way we have structured our organizational hierarchy is I'm the senior pastor. There are three associate pastors report to me, and then there is an executive director of our business operation. This is like a big entity. So one of the associate pastor is the associate pastor of worship and creative arts. That's what we call him. That's Dr. Jeremy Rose. He is also the leader of our worship band, and under him is our choir director, who's part time, and also we have an orchestra director who is also working like a part time basis. So my direct interaction is with my associate pastor, which is also the worship band director. But he takes it from there, and he has again like a great built a good organic sort of relational capital. He has a relational capital with the other guys.
Mm,
I'm the new guy in the church. My worship director has been here for 20 years, and all the others have been here forever. So they have a better pulse of the congregation. They can sense it better than I can, and I trust them, and they have never disappointed. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's awesome.
Mhm.
And for even because how long have you been at Lake Avenue now?
So that's a loaded question, because I came to Pasadena, California 12 years ago. And from that time, I've been attending Lake Avenue Church as a member. And then 5 years ago, they asked me to be the pastor of outreach. And then 3 years ago, they asked me to be the senior pastor. So in some sense, I also have a relational capital, even though I'm sort of new to my position. Yes.
Y- Yeah, you've been
Yeah.
there a long time, new to
Yes.
the
Yes.
position.
Yeah.
Yep, totally makes sense. And so you knew in a sense of like what the worship culture was that you were walking into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
And
I
then
did.
and then now
Yeah.
you get to like experience it from now your new role.
Yes. And one of the things I did, which probably created a little rift, not with the worship band, though the congregation got a little stunned, because one Sunday, I said, I'm going to cancel all the music program today. We are not going to sing. The whole Sunday is going to be worship. We will worship without music. Let's see if we can do it. So,
Well,
yeah, so that was like a shocker. Our church has been in existence for 130 years. And we have never had a Sunday like this. But the reason I was able to do was a few months ago, I did another service. I said, we are going to do service without sermon. Let's see how a service will look like without a sermon. So it was all about worship and all that kind of stuff, right? Because that's intentionally breaking that traditional evangelical myth that sermon is the center. So I did that before, and now so that kind of gave me the credibility in some way to say that now we are going to cancel the so-called worship, right? The music part, no choir, no worship band, no. People were kind of completely confused.
Mm.
But the funny part was the some people were upset and some people complained, and I can believe that you did it because there are a lot of people coming to our church because of the music program, rightly so,
Mm.
right? Like amazing investment we have made. So anyway, so some congregation members were upset, not in a bad way because they knew that I was trying to do a good thing, but I used certain words like we idolize music, or music become an idol. We shouldn't have that. That's why I'm doing it. So some people kind of react to it in different way, right or wrong, but they are entitled to that feeling and opinion. But the funny thing is that the worship team and the choir, and they were all fully with that. They got what I'm trying to do, right? And they knew exactly what I'm trying to do, and they also know that I'm on their side. Just this past Sunday, you can stream into our YouTube. And I just did this exactly. I literally told the congregation who came late because we have a parking issue. I said 9:30 is the service. Then program your mind to come at 9 o'clock so that you don't miss even one part of the service. For the LA fire has devastated all the three of my worship directors are affected in different way. One lost their home completely, and
Mm.
another person has their house, but it is not habitable. Another person was evacuated. Still, last Sunday we had the full-blown choir, full-blown orchestra, and the praise band. And I told the congregation, these people, they lost everything. They still came and made music. But then you are walking in here by 10 o'clock, 9:30 the service start, 10 o'clock you come just before my sermon. Good for you, but that's not what you should do, because even if you miss my sermon, I don't want you to miss this music they are making. So what I'm saying is that the music team know that even if I canceled that for one Sunday, I'm in their team. I
Yeah.
got, right. So anyway, yeah. So I don't know. Sorry if this is what you asked me, but I was going on a tangent
No.
here. Yeah.
No, well, because the relationship that you have built with them is very important, because not only it's important for the whole service and the whole like church as a whole in general, but
Yeah.
even when you came here too for the Revive conference, you talked about unity. And so
Yeah.
within our
Yeah.
own personal church, there is that importance of being united in Christ, but also united in a relationship
Hmm.
together. And specifically, when you're putting on a service for a congregation as well, the conflicts that maybe go unspoken are things that the congregation can often
Yeah.
feel, even if it's like it seems fine. But and so I think the relationship that you have with them is so key and is so
Yeah.
awesome that it is so strong, and that you even have talked about how much you believe in them and how important, like, you value them very clearly, and
Hmm.
that allows them to run with things because you have built that equal trust. So yes, that I love that. Um, yeah, and I'm curious too, um, what led you to want to ruffle the feathers of doing a service with no music and doing a service with all music and no sermon?
Oh, I think it's simple. We need a jolt of reality sometime, right? Like, we don't know when we are distracted, when we don't know when we are, like, again, music and sermon or any of these things can be idolized. There is a thin line we cross, and we don't know when we cross. The only way we know is when we completely get rid of it. That's when we realize you
Mm.
had to press a reset button, like our computer, right? Sometime. So that's
Yeah.
when, what is true worship? we can still worship without any music. We can still worship without any sermon. Worship is an encounter. Again, that's the word. Uh, and so that helps people, even though it's uncomfortable for them. That helps. Even now we are talking, as you know, Los Angeles fires. We have all these things planned for the whole year. Now, first week, God came and pushed a reset button. All the plans we had for the whole year is completely out of the way. Now we are reinventing everything. But we're realizing that in that process, we discovered something absolutely amazing, something which would have never crossed our path, because we know we have been doing this for 130 years. We know we don't need Jesus to tell us now to do. We know we got it, Jesus. But now we need an interruption. We need an interruption. Now we realize, this is how we should do or we should not do, right? So yeah, it's that simple principle. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you notice a change in how they approached
I did.
worship after
I
that?
Yeah, I did. So because I called out some of this so-called idols, not just music. That was one of them. There were a couple others too. Like I said, initially it was a little difficult for them, but then they realized no, they appreciated it. We actually had man, 3 months ago, we had a week of worship. Like the every single evening of our church, a church was open to worship. We had never done anything like that. Every evening, so we could see things transforming. And one of the best thing that happened was that I think it's a Wednesday was a family night, and so we had this place where we brought all the couches and people were sitting around, families with little kids, and while the worship leader was singing and the kids were doing cartwheeling right in front of him, it was just an experience that we have never seen anything. I've never seen anything like that before. It's just like it brought me memories of me doing family prayer in my home with my dad and mom and children around. So yeah, that made congregation more agile and nimble to accept a new way of reaching out to God and reaching out to each other. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I love that.
right.
And when you think of people that might be listening as we kind of come to a close and reflect on our
Mm.
conversation, what would you say to current worship leaders or even congregation members about worship?
Yeah, I would. Again, I'm not the right person to advise worship leaders in some way because I don't know anything about music or anything. But going back to, I would encourage them to focus on Isaiah 6 moment, right? Like, and also when we come to the service, it should be all about God. It's not about us. And the reason I'm saying, I just had a conversation with my worship team right now, so it's fresh in my mind. And they're talking about, yeah, we need to have more place for lament in the service. And I said, yeah, we need to do that because of the LA fire and what's happening. That's great. But we have been doing lamenting for the first 2-3 weeks. Each week, we need to bring the lament a little more down so that we can bring the triumph and the celebration to the end. Because if we dwell too much on the lament and we dwell too, I mean, again, we need to have that, but again, it's a fine balance. If we dwell too much on reflective, contemplative, meditative kind of thing, which I do in my personal prayer, like I said, personal worship, but then it will slowly take us to a place of spiritual narcissism. It'll be about me. Even that song which says, coming back to the heart of worship. It's all about you. It's all about you, right? But I'm sorry that there is this. Anyway, my complaint about generally about the worship team scene today is the worship songs nowadays is more personal and reflective and meditative, which is fantastic. But at some point, if you don't transition into this is about God, right? This is about not about my pain and my lament, which I'll do on a Wednesday prayer meeting. I'll cry to God. I'll get angry at God. God has given me all the freedom. But when you come for the Sunday morning worship service, this is not about your pain. It's about the triumph of God. And that's why I said we enter a transcendent reality where none of this really matters. And we see the Isaiah 6 vision. That will be my, advice, I can say.
Yeah, because worship is a response and praise to God, who God is and what he has done. And so it's not about us. I mean, even the point of church is to not go to church to learn about us. It's to learn about who God is and how amazing he is. And that's the essence of it. So thank you for highlighting that and for that reminder.
Thank you.
Well, it was a joy to have you on this podcast, and thank you for your wisdom and allowing us to look at the inwardness of Lake Avenue and how worship happens there.
Oh, thank you, Taylor. Thank you for taking me on, and we are looking forward to have more collaborations with your worship initiative. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching or listening to our podcast. If you liked this episode, would you mind sharing it with someone who you think would also benefit from this content? We'll see you in 2 weeks.